We're here again in the Song of Songs, and the bride has reached a point where she is so one with Christ in life, in love, in beauty, in affections, in glory. And this climax was actually reached in the Song of Songs in chapter 8, verses 5 through 7. And actually, you can just complete the song there. It's just such a high point. The love of Christ, the bridegroom, is just occupying the bride. She's just his matching counterpart. And she is in maturity, and she has become the delight of Christ. All that he is and all that he has is now hers. And this isn't just a doctrine. It's easy to say Christ is everything. Christ is my all, but it's not a doctrine to her at this time or some kind of an ideal. But in reality, she possesses him, and this is our life. We're day by day possessing Christ. We have everything of him, but we want to know him in revelation. We want to know him in fellowship, and we also want to know him in growth unto maturity. So she was a lowly maiden, just as we are. We were called in lowliness. But she began to grow. At this point, she has an open, clear vision of Christ. Many revelations of him has just captured her heart. She's been released from so many occupying things that at one time were very valuable to her. Not only has she seen his beauty, his virtue, his glory, but she's entered into a union with him to possess all that he is. And it's kind of like in Philippians 3, Paul says, I want to know him and I want to gain him. To know Christ, to gain Christ. So hers is not just a mere knowledge from study. If we're diligent, we study, we can gain something. But hers is a knowledge of experience of Christ that has been constituted into her, that now she becomes a matching bride to him. She's his reflection. When you see her, Christ is reflected. She's his duplication, and she's the bride that actually satisfies his heart. So in such a high position, exalted with Christ, the song just has reached a peak that you can't really go higher. So where do we go from here? The Song of Songs begins to go down, but it's going down not in a negative way, but in a way of humble service. The bride not only knows his will with his interest in view and concern for his pleasure. This is the bride just doing everything for his pleasure. Now in union with him, she begins to serve as he served. You remember in Mark 10:45, he says, I came not to be served, but to serve, and to give my life for many. Or in Philippians 2, there's just a wonderful revelation that Christ, who is God, he took on the form of a serving slave, leaving his position and display of glory, and he served even to the point of death, obedient to the death of the cross. So now we see the bride, so high in stature, exalted in position with Christ, her bridegroom, and she's just praised by all around. So what does she do? She takes the path of the lowly Jesus, her master. She lowers herself in humility now to serve others. She cares. In this verse, it talks about the little sister. We have a little sister, she says. She's just caring for the little sister, having a vision. Now her vision and her burden is to raise up others, to gain the bridal beauty, bridal affections, bridal glory. It's just so that she can please in an increased way her beloved Christ. And so this is our path. We grow. Some have grown to maturity. And wherever you grow to, or wherever you're at in your growth, you begin to serve others in humility. Maybe your growth is really taking you to a high level with Christ. But we need to become so low as Christ for others' sake. So in this verse, it says we do. She doesn't serve alone. Although she has such a burden, she's not running away or running ahead of Christ. The personal pronoun "we" is used two times in this verse to express her union with Christ, a harmony of interest, a harmony of love. Her movement, her intentions are just to care for the weak. And this is Christ's intention. She wants to care for the immature, for the babes, for the unlearned, and even care for those who are backsliding. So she serves the little sister. And this service is not for her personal gain, to gain a following or something like this, or selfish motives or interests. But in purity, she just is united with her beloved Christ. She's in union with him. So she can carry out his plan. She can move in his way. She can attain his goal with his strength for his pleasure. So actually, when you look at her, she is serving as he serves. You see the duplication not only in beauty in the bride, but now you see the reflection in her service that she's just displaying Christ. So this word little sister is used in this verse, and this is where the burden of the bride comes about. And this is one of tender age. She lacks growth. She's not mature. At the return of the bridegroom, the question here is that I would ask is, will every believer be qualified to dine with him at the marriage dinner of the Lamb? Maybe this is like a little parenthesis here. Or will some still be considered the little sister in the baby stage, not qualified to feast with him? They've been born again. They have the divine life of God. They're born of the Spirit. But today, many believers are born from above, but they're not mature to match Christ as his bride. They don't have bridal beauty, bridal affection, bridal qualities that will match and satisfy the bridegroom and feast with, so they cannot feast with him. This is actually a serious thought concerning the coming of Christ and our gathering to him. It's not that they are not saved, but we're talking about the growth of life. You could say there's at least two classes of Christians who are lovers of Christ or believers. And then when he returns at his coming, it would be firstly those who are mature and ready to meet him. And then there's some others that when he returns, they're not fully grown and they're still worldly. So when we come to the little sister here, we come to a place where the mature bride has a desire to see the little sister grow, mature, be perfected. For what reason? So that this little sister can increase the corporate bride of Christ for his pleasure when he returns. So little sister, the mature bride is so absorbed with God. Yet this is amazing. She's aware and she's burdened for the little ones, the younger ones around her who need to be perfected. So every born again believer or lover has bridal potential. This is our goal, that we would all become part of the bride to match Christ for his pleasure. So we have a measure of life, and that measure of life needs to grow. It needs to be perfected to become the Lamb's bride and the Lamb's wife. And so this is actually, to me, just such a beautiful scene. The perfected, exalted bride who matches Christ, just wants to care for those who are still immature and little. So you see the mature bride on one hand, and then on the other hand you have a little sister. The little sister is seemingly insignificant, just a little female. She's related to the bride in life because she's a sister. But it's amazing that there's one who is mature, is seen caring for the new believer. And this should be a burden to us wherever we are at this stage of life. Growth of life, we should care for others, care for their growth, care for their spiritual nourishment, care that they're fresh with the Lord. And or you could say maybe it's not only if you have more capacity, if you have more burden, maybe your maturity has the measure to care for a newly founded church or a small group of believers who are short of Christ. And you can minister Christ to this small group for their growth and perfection, for bridal quality. So it goes on to say there's a little sister and she has no breasts. The matter of breasts, if you go through the songs, have often been repeated, and maybe one time we'll go through the Song of Songs, tracing this progression. So she's little, she has a sister, she's little, and she has no breasts. So this expresses her status, the condition and matter of growth of one that the bride and the bridegroom are about to care for. Little emphasizes her tender age, while no breasts, her lack of growth. She's not yet mature, and so therefore she cannot supply the nourishment to others. She's without breasts, this little sister. She just lacks the growth, and now as a little sister, she needs care. She's not fit to care for others. She's a saved one, but she might be just up to the point where she knows the Savior. She knows her eternal destiny is not the lake of fire, but she lacks supply. She lacks the milk of the word to nourish others. And so she has no breasts. Breasts in the Song of Song, the two breasts indicate on one hand faith and on the other hand love. The bride, and this faith grasps our beloved Christ, and love holds our beloved Christ. So the bride, she is mature. Her breasts are mature. But this little sister, she's just in the initial stage, and how much she needs to really develop. You can look in 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 3, and using these two words, faith and love, Paul says, your faith increases exceedingly, and the love of each one of you abounds. So as far as if you look at this picture of the breast compared to Thessalonica, there was an increase and there was an abounding. And the first epistle to the Thessalonica, there you could see there was an increase, a growth. So this is what the bride and the bridegroom are after in the little sister, to see the growth. So she lacks spiritual stature. She's either a newly born seeker, or maybe, as a sad condition among many believers today, she's one who for years has not grown in Christ. She's just stagnant in her development. You talk to some believers, and it's like in age, they're the age of a woman, but inwardly they're like a child, without growth, without perfection, without maturity. So the goal of every believer, of you, of me, is actually to marry Christ. But yet he cannot marry one who is immature, lacking growth, lacking development to match him. She is not of a marriageable age, this little sister. She's not bearing bridal beauty, bridal affection, bridal characteristics, and she's just not yet fit to be considered a bride to Christ. So the mature lover, who is the bride, who has grown and is perfected, and the beloved Christ together, they love this little sister so dearly. But in her tender age, her lack of growth, she's not in the condition to become a spouse for the pleasure of Christ, the husband. So there's many today, if the Lord was to return today and we were to be face to face with him, they're not fit to be the bride of Christ. In position maybe, but the condition of growth lacks development, lacks perfection. So We've been joined to the resurrected Christ by faith and love, but now we need to marry him and bring forth fruit. We need bridal qualities. So I consider, how can we help the little sister who has no breasts? So maybe the Lord needs to put somebody in my heart. I have a few people in my heart, and I'm praying for them. Some are not yet believers. That's one category. But now there are others who, they're young believers or believers that just seem like they stopped. But I have a burden to care for them in their undeveloped situation. So may the desire of each one of us have a desire that others would grow in their love, grow in their faith, that they could match Christ and become his bride when he returns. Lord, have mercy on us and gain your bride today. Amen.